9 a.m. Jamaica time, and the Secretary having advised me that a quorum is present, I call this meeting to order. My name is Stephen McNamara, a Director of Sagicor Real Estate X Fund Limited, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 9th Annual General Meeting of members of Sagicor Real Estate X Fund Limited. Our company chairman, Mr. Christopher Zaka, is attending this meeting from the satellite location at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in Jamaica, as tomorrow he will need to be in attendance at the Sagicor Group Jamaica Limited Annual General Meeting from that same location. For logistics, therefore, he has opted to attend both meetings from Jamaica instead of flying back and forth over a 2-day period. Having called the meeting to order, I now hand over to Chairman Christopher Zaka to conduct the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. McNamara, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to our annual general meeting, and it's our 9th. It's a pleasure to see you all in attendance this year as we continue to grapple with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The decision was taken to once again accommodate shareholders virtually. We assure you that we remain committed to engaging with all our shareholders, and we know how important it is to address your questions, and we value the opportunity to update you on the development of the company in this manner. Later in the presentation, after you've heard from Brenda Lee and myself, we will spend some time addressing any questions that may be submitted. Please place your questions in the chat section and they will be noted by the registrar. While we may not have time to address all of them in this broadcast, we will ensure that every question gets an individual reply. Finally, a quick note for those attending virtually regarding today's resolutions. Shareholders will be asked to consider several resolutions at the appropriate time. When it comes time to vote on each, the resolution will be populated in the chat section of the screen. You will have 15 seconds to vote electronically by selecting in favor or against. For added convenience, a helpline has been established. You may call 876-936-7382-7 if you are experiencing difficulties. As for the rest of us who are attending physically, our votes will be cast the old-fashioned way. The notice of the meeting was dispatched online on the JSE website and to each shareholder on May 2nd, 2022. If there is no objection, I seek the permission of the meeting that the notice convening the meeting be taken as read. Do we have a proposer, Madam Secretary?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do we have a...
Janice Grant Taft.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Peter Pearson.
Thanks. The resolution will be placed in the chat section of your screen for those of us that are on, those of you who are online. You have 15 seconds to vote electronically by selecting in favor or against. So the 15 seconds starts now.
The ayes have it, sir.
The ayes have it. I accordingly declare the motion carried. We now move to directors. I'm very pleased to have with us today several of our directors. and it gives some virtually and some in person. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Peter Pearson. And virtually we have Mr. Vinay Walia, Mr. Bruce James, Mr. Stephen McNamara, and Dr. Doddridge Miller. We have received apologies from Director Colin Steele. Our beloved director, Mr. Michael Fraser, transitioned this life in January of this year after a brief illness and will be sorely missed. We, the members of the board, wish to publicly acknowledge his stellar contribution to this company from its inception. And as a mark of respect, we will now observe a moment's silence. May he rest in peace. Thank you. We also welcome the representative from our company secretary, MCSI Corporate Services Inc. St. Lucia, Mr. Rory McNamara, and from representatives from our retiring auditors, Grant Thornton St. Lucia, and our incoming auditors, PricewaterhouseCoopers East Caribbean. I am sure all shareholders present will join me in expressing sincere appreciation to the members of the board of directors for their dedicated service to the company and its shareholders throughout the year. You would have noticed in the notice of AGM on page 4 of your annual report the ordinary business which will be addressed at today's meeting. The first item of business of the meeting is to receive the audited accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2021, and the reports of the directors and auditors thereon. I will then ask the CEO of the company to address the meeting in order to provide you with an update on the current operations and outlook for the company, and shareholders will have an opportunity to comment and ask questions. The second and third items of business will focus on resolutions to re-elect directors and adopt the remuneration of the directors for the year ended December 31st, 2021. And the final item of business is the appointment of the new auditors for the company until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting. Financial reports. The meeting will now be presented with the audited accounts for the year ended 31st December 2021 and reports of the directors and auditors thereon as laid out on page 5 and page 30 respectively. Copies of the reports and accounts were made available via the Jamaica Stock Exchange and Sagicor websites, as well as in correspondence sent to all members. May we have a motion that the director's report and the report of the auditors be taken as read. Registrar, do we have a proposal?
Alicia White.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
David Rose.
Thank you. To our virtual attendees, the resolution will be placed in the chat section of your screen. You have 15 seconds to vote electronically.
The ayes have it, Mr. Zacco.
Thank you. I declare the motion carried. The audited accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2021, and the reports of the directors and auditors, having been circulated, are now before the meeting for discussion. However, before I open the floor to deal with any questions on them, I now invite CEO Ms. Brenda Lee Martin to report on the company's performance over the year. Brenda?
Thank you, Chairman. Morning, everyone, and welcome. Just a recap of 2021 for Sagicor Real Estate X Fund. 2021 was a year where we continue to feel the impact of the COVID pandemic on the business. Global travel and tourism maintained a slow and steady recovery, which directly impacts our business in a positive way. And this was demonstrated in the improved performance in our flagship property, DoubleTree Orlando. Our outlook remains positive as we look ahead and remain committed to improving our portfolio and generating positive growth for all our stakeholders. So we will now look at our major earning assets and the changes that would have occurred during 2021. Sagicor Real Estate X Fund Limited is the largest publicly traded real estate company in Jamaica. And during 2021, we made changes to the portfolio of assets which were consistent with our strategy to reduce risk to our investors. Given the ongoing adverse impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on tourism and travel, we made a decision early on to dispose of our holdings in our associate, Playa Hotel and Resorts. We, however, maintain direct ownership of DoubleTree in Orlando through our subsidiary, X Fund Properties LLC, and the group intends to utilize the proceeds of the sale of the Playa shares to reposition ourselves with investments in a broader range of real estate properties with good growth prospects. And we continue to maintain an investment in the Sigma real estate portfolio, which, as you know, provides some exposure to commercial real estate in Jamaica. So just some information about the sale of our Playa shares. This was done in January of 2021. We sold a block of 20 million shares that were held in JAMZIV, a company of which X Fund Group held a 61% stake. And so of the total net proceeds of US $96 million that was received from the sale of the shares, X Fund received approximately its 61% share, or $58.6 million US dollars. And at the time, we took the decision also to utilize a portion of the proceeds to pay down all our local outstanding debt. So looking at the total assets after all of that was done early on in the year, so we're looking at 2020 compared to 2021. So you will see that we no longer have a stake in JAMZIV after the sale of the shares. DoubleTree by Hilton at the entrance to Universal in Orlando, the value at the end of December 2021 stood at $15 billion compared to $12.6 billion the prior year. So this gain would have been from revaluation as well as FX translation gains. The investment in the Sigma real estate portfolio also increased to just under $1 billion, and you will see the remaining cash proceeds that we have of approximately $7.1 million, and these are $1 billion, sorry. And these funds are invested in interest-bearing securities that are benefiting us at this time. So we'll now look at DoubleTree Orlando a little bit further. So we know this property has 742 rooms located across 2 towers, and it is ideally located right across from the entrance to the Universal theme park in Orlando. So it is within easy reach also of other attractions in the Orlando area, such as Disney and other theme parks. And we did a wholesale comprehensive renovation of this property in 2017, but over the following years, we also did other renovations and upgrades to specific areas of the property. And this has allowed us to charge higher rates, and it has also attracted both transient and group customers, so we have had higher occupancy levels, and this has really done very well for the property. So moving on to the financial results of DTO, we can see from the table here that the 2021 performance showed significant improvement over 2020. 2020 was when we bore the brunt of the COVID pandemic, that crisis. And so in 2021, we started to come out of it. And so we have shown here also the 2019 performance. So you can see that in 2021, we're actually pretty close to where. So looking at occupancy, in 2020 we were at 47% occupancy. In 2021 we improved to 83%, and that compares favorably to the 2019 pre-COVID performance at just under 92%. Our ADR is also improving. At 2021 we were at 94.69. 2019 we were at 116.44, and our revenue per available room at the end of 2021 was 78.79 compared to 44.96 in 2020, and moving up closer to where we were in 2019. Our revenue has also picked up significantly, 29.6 million compared to 17.2 in 2020, and our EBITDA has also improved significantly, moving from 2.4 million in 2020 to 7 million in 2021. What we have here now is a quarterly performance of DTO, 4 quarters in 2021, and I've also shown the more current quarter, Q1 in 2022. So when you look at the performance quarter by quarter, you see that business has been picking up and has even picked up more since the start of this year. We are seeing the return of international visitors. In 2020, it was more locally that they were getting their visitors from the US market. But we see international visitors, group business also picking up and trending towards pre-COVID levels. So this is working very well for the property. So if you look at occupancy, for example, Q1 we were at 70.3% occupancy. By the end of the year, we were at 83% occupancy. And for Q1 2022, we're at 92%. ADR, Q1 we were at $76. By the end of the year, we were at $95. And in Q1, we were at $125. So things are picking up. RevPAR, similarly, at the start of 2021, we're at $54. At the end of the year, we were at 78, and for Q1, we're at 115.29. Revenues have picked up as well. At the end of the year, at 9.2 million. For Q1, we're at $11 million US dollars, and EBITDA at the end of Q4 was, for that quarter, was 2.6 million US dollars, and in Q1 we're at 3.2. Okay, so moving on to looking at a comparison of the DTO property compared to the general Orlando market. We're also doing better than the market. We're outperforming the market. So occupancy for full year 2021, we're at 83%. The market was at 55%. ADR, average daily rate, was just under $95. The market was just under $94, and our revenue per available room was at $78, just under $79 compared to the market at $52. And for Q1 in 2022, you can see here that we're also outperforming the market. Occupancy at 92 compared to the market at 67. Revenue per available room at $115 versus the market at $83. Okay, so moving on from the DoubleTree Orlando, we'll take a quick look at our investment in the Sigma real estate portfolio. So the performance of this portfolio is supported by the strong demand here in Jamaica for commercial real estate, and we see this reflected in the reval gains of these properties as well as the cash yields that we earn. So this slide shows the properties in the Sigma real estate portfolio. that through our investment in this portfolio, we are benefiting from the performance of these properties. So I'll just highlight two in particular here, the two that are significantly below 100%. 63 to 67 Knutsford Boulevard is now at 100% at year, and we were at 63 because we were renovating some space for a new client, so we're now at 100. And for the Millennium Mall, this is a fairly new commercial mall that we have opened. It suffered a bit during the COVID period with getting tenants in, but we now have tenants in who continue to do build out of their spaces and to finalize leases and to take up full occupation of the space. So we expect this occupancy level to increase by year end. Now we're going to now look at the financial highlights for Sigma Real Estate Fund. So after a particularly challenging 2020, we're moving back into positive territory for 2021 as our performance remained consistent with the positive momentum in the global economy. And this is reflected in the improved turnaround in the performance of our flagship property, DoubleTree in Orlando, which we just went through, as well as the strong performance of the Jamaican real estate market through our investment in the Sigma portfolio. And it is also reflective of the divestment of our investment in Playa, which we took earlier on in the year, and the proceeds were invested in interest-bearing securities. And those proceeds were received in US dollars, and so we benefited both from interest income and foreign currency gains for this portion of the portfolio. So we recorded total revenues of $5.8 billion, which is 125% higher than prior year, and the net profits we ended at $0.4 billion, which is positive. And our share price has also improved over the period, closing the year at $8.50, with the corresponding increase in the market capitalization. So we'll now move on to the outlook for Sagicor Real Estate X Fund. We all recognize that the global economy has shifted from a full shutdown to a gradual return to normalcy. And this also captures the return to global travel and the improvements in global travel and tourism. A full recovery, however, remains dependent on the impact and containment of emerging variants, which we see from time to time. So the outlook for the group remains positive. We have seen the resilience of the company over this very challenging period, and we expect continued strong performance, certainly from the real estate market in Jamaica, and we are seeing this strong recovery with our DoubleTree property in Orlando. We're seeing the pickup in the group business, which is the area of business that generates greater revenue for the property, and so we're happy that the group business is returning. The strong inflow of liquidity from the sale of the Playa shares will be redeployed into new real estate investment opportunities, and we remain bullish on real estate prospects in Jamaica and the wider region. And we do see good real estate opportunities, and so we will maintain our focus on doing just that, expanding, focusing on operational efficiencies given the risks to our outlook. And we continue to work on our analytical expertise driven by technology initiatives. And we are seeking to reduce our earnings volatility by investing in properties that are already up, that we can earn predictable cash flows and returns. So we remain committed to the health and wellness of our team, our clients, and our stakeholders. And we have implemented a multidimensional approach to safeguard health in these very critical times, minimize risk, and to ensure business continuity as we continue to monitor the impact of these health challenges, and we manage our business accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brenda Lee. One focus for 2022 will be on creating a more independent governance structure for the X-Fund Group as a part of the growth strategy for the company. In this regard, I intend to demit office as chairman of this company at the next board meeting of the company to be held on July 28, 2022. Although I will demit office as chairman, I will remain on the board, and I feel very confident about the future of the company. I now invite shareholders to comment or ask questions on the reports or the business of the company. Please type your questions in the chat section of your screen or raise your hand if you are physically present to indicate that you wish to ask a question. Those questions asked online will be read for the benefit of the meeting and addressed by the relevant officer or officers. Questions may also be asked of the outgoing auditors in relation to the conduct of the audit, content of the audit report, accounting policies adopted by the company, and the independence of the auditor in carrying out the audit. The floor is now open to questions.
David Rose is typing a question in the chat.
So David Rose, he has a question, and it is, what is X-Fund going to do considering the reality that the group holds more than 11 billion in cash and investments?
I think the number is, after paying down debt, a little less than that, David. So, Brenda, would you like to comment about the strategy going forward?
Are you hearing me? Okay. So the figure was 7.1 billion for cash. And we, in the outlook, we spoke about looking at real estate opportunities that we will be investing in. And we, at this stage, will not be seeing exactly what we're investing in, but we're looking at opportunities, and it will become known when the time is appropriate.
Yeah, I can add that we have a pipeline that we're looking at, and that, for example, there are 2 commercial opportunities in the parish of St. Catherine that we're evaluating right now, but nothing specific that we could divulge to the market.
Mr. Rose's comment is that this is as at March 2022, Sir Sagicor.
Noted, David.
There is another question here from Mr. Rose that says, have you restarted capital expenditure for DoubleTree Orlando?
Brenda?
The question is, have you restarted capital expenditure for DoubleTree Orlando?
Yes, Brenda can address that.
We undertake small capital expenditure because that is necessary as you operate the hotel, but there was a large expenditure that we had contemplated prior to COVID that has been put on indefinite hold.
He's asking for a little time because typing in the chat can be very time consuming.
Sure. Let me just add to that also, in terms of that large expenditure at DoubleTree, we had planned to expand the banquet and convention facilities considerably. And of course, as Brenda said, it was put on hold because of the advent of the pandemic and the resulting destruction of tourism, let's put it that way. However, as the group business comes back, because it's groups that use the convention facilities, certainly we would be looking at revitalizing that project if the commercial numbers make sense.
His next question is, what was the financial investment of 3.11 billion made in Q1 2022 under non-current assets?
So David is going to Q1 22. Kamisha, do you have an answer for that question?
Good morning. The $3.2 billion that he's making reference to is in respect of purchase of corporate bonds.
Mr. Rose is asking Mr. Zaka if those CAPEX plans are still there for 2022 or going forward.
So I'm not clear as to which CAPEX he's speaking of. If it's about the expansion to the Doubletree Convention Center, they are on hold. But as I said, we are constantly evaluating the state of the market, especially as it applies to group and convention business in Orlando.
I'm not seeing any further questions at this time.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd like to put the vote for the resolution for the adoption of the audited accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2021, and the reports of the directors and auditors thereon before the meeting. May I remind all shareholders proposing and seconding the various resolutions to identify themselves for the purpose of the records. And may I also remind any shareholder physically present in the room that they can vote by raising their hands. So we move to resolution 1, that the audited accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2021, and the reports of the directors and auditors be and are hereby adopted. Do I have a proposal?
Peter Pearson proposes.
Thank you, Peter. Is there a seconder?
Jean Campbell.
Thank you, ma'am. I now put the resolution to the meeting.
The ayes have it, sir. Is it possible to take another question from Mr. Rose to the auditors?
Yes, we will allow that. Go ahead, David.
The question for the auditors is note 25 borrowings. I note that 7.63 billion is listed as current debt under the company related to Jamziv. However, the current amount is 202.19 million for the group. The note says the Jamziv debenture is due May 2023. He wasn't finished typing. Let him finish. So he's asking, is that debt under Jamziv owed to a related party in the group or something else? If it's May 2023, why is it listed as current?
between 6, Kamisha, you want to?
Yeah, I don't really think that's a question for the auditors. It's more.
No, that's what I was about. Thank you, Sixto. Kamisha?
Sure, Mr. Zaka. So essentially when the shares in Playa were sold in January of 2021, the proceeds to Jamziv is the holder of those shares of the $96 million. It was essentially returned to the owners. Sigma has a 39% stake in Jamziv, and as such, the proceeds were returned in the form of a P note. So currently, there is a P note between Sigma and Jamziv. In respect of the maturity date and the classification, there are plans currently for us to proceed with the winding up of Jamziv, and that is expected to be completed in 2022. So once that wind up is completed, that loan will be cancelled. So irrespective of the maturity date, we expect that loan will not exist beyond 2022, hence the classification.
Thank you. Okay.
One moment, Mr. Zaka. He's saying that he has a follow-up question. The question is it that Jamziv winding up would result in the X-Fund Group collecting 61% of capital related to its ownership? As I know that Playa proceeds sales wasn't capital X-Fund, and it couldn't be accessed immediately.
Kamisha?
So the short answer is no. As I'd indicated earlier, the proceeds from the sale of the Playa shares, it was returned to all owners, including Sigma, XFP, and XFE. So those amounts were invested in short-term liquidity. As you can see, there was an increase in the investment portfolio, which is where the proceeds were invested. So the winding up of Jamziv will not impact the company in terms of providing additional liquidity.
And is it that different vehicles would be established to do these real estate projects?
The answer to that is yes and no. It depends on the particular project. So we will look at the most efficient vehicle for any particular project, depending on the scope and jurisdiction of the project. Okay, I'm going to move on now. And we go back to Resolution 1, that the audited accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2021, and the reports of the directors and auditors be and are hereby adopted.
The ayes have it, sir.
Right, thank you. So I declare the motion carried. We will now move to the second item of business, and that is the re-election of directors, Resolution 2 on the agenda. In accordance with Article 102 of the company's amended and restated Articles of Association, 1/3 of the directors, or if their number is not 3, or a multiple of 3, then the number nearest to 1/3 shall retire from the office at each annual general meeting. The following are the directors who will retire this year: Directors Stephen McNamara and Peter Pearson retire by rotation and are eligible for re-election. I would like to seek the permission of the meeting to have the directors nominated for re-election en bloc. May I have a motion to consider and if thought fit to pass the following resolution, that the election of directors be made en bloc. Do I have a proposal?
Audrey Flowers Clark.
Thank you, Audrey. Is there a seconder?
Kellyanne Chin.
Thank you, Kellyanne. I now put the resolution to the meeting.
The ayes have it, sir.
Thank you. I declare the motion carried. The meeting having agreed, I will now put the following resolutions to the meeting. Resolution 3, that Messrs. Stephen McNamara and Peter Pearson, who retire by rotation and being eligible, offer themselves for re-election, be and are hereby re-elected as directors of the company en bloc. Do I have a proposal?
Camille Lennon proposes.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Jean Campbell.
Thank you. For those voting online, the resolution is in the chat section and you have 15 seconds to vote electronically in favor or against. And I remind the shareholders who are present physically that they can vote by raising their hands. Those in favor and those against.
The ayes have it, sir.
Thank you. I declare the motion carried. The next resolution before the meeting is Resolution 4, that the amount of Jamaican dollars 14,818,000 included in the audited accounts of the company for the year ended December 31st, 2021, as remuneration for their services as directors be and is hereby approved. I now invite a shareholder to propose the resolution. May I have a proposal?
David Rose proposes.
Thank you, David. Will a shareholder please provide a second to the motion?
Adeline Chin seconds.
Thank you very much. I now put the resolution to the meeting. Again, you have 15 seconds to vote online or in the room by raising your hands. In favor? Against? 15 seconds.
ayes have it, sir.
Thank you. I declare the motion carried. The next resolution is the fifth. The next item is the fifth item on the agenda, which deals with the appointment of the auditors. Our auditors, Messrs. Grant Thornton, Chartered Accountants, are this year the meeting office and will be replaced by PricewaterhouseCoopers East Caribbean Chartered Accountants. I want to thank Grant Thornton for their service to the company. The meeting is being asked to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditors. I now invite a member to propose the following resolution: that the retiring auditors, Grant Thornton, having agreed not to be reappointed, the firm of auditors PricewaterhouseCoopers East Caribbean be and is hereby appointed auditors for the company to hold office until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting at a remuneration to be fixed by the directors of the company. Do I have a proposal?
Proposer Kellyanne Chin.
Thank you.
Kellyanne Chin, sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a seconder?
Seconded by Janice Grant Taft.
Thank you, Janice. The resolution is placed in the chat, and we all have 15 seconds to vote electronically by selecting in favor or against.
The ayes have it, sir.
Thank you. I declare the motion carried. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formal business of this meeting, and I thank you very much for your interest and support. I will now call for the termination of this meeting. May I have a proposal?
Brenda Lee Martin.
May I have a seconder?
Peter Pearson.
Those in favor? Any against?
The ayes have it, sir.
I declare the motion carried, Madam Registrar, and declare this annual general meeting of the company terminated. Once again, I would like to thank all our shareholders, our directors, and our management team for their continued support. Please join us for refreshments as directed by the ushers for those of you who are physically present. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.